Um, I'm so glad that you've all got nothing better to do tonight because, to be honest with you, you're really smart people for being here. Because most people could care less about what really matters. And, you know, I know Noah took 100 years to build that ark, and they thought it was a nut job, and I want to tell you something, his kids inherited the earth. So, it's my pleasure to have known Zonia. Zonia for decades has been someone who has just held the line in the sand against a bunch of corrupt officials and corrupt people in political parties and even some of the religious institutions. So my hat's off to her. She's a really godly woman, and she does what she can, even when she thinks no one is looking. She still fights the good fight. So I have to give Zonia credit. She's been in the trenches for a long time, trying to work within the confines and the parameters of a corrupt system. I don't have a lot of respect for corruption. I don't have a lot of respect for corrupt people. And the God I serve, one of my favorite moments from Jesus Christ's life is when he went into the house of God and broke out the whip. And there is a time for that. We're in that time. I don't know how many of you have children, but I will tell you that this document that was published 40 years ago, it's amazing. You did some research, Zonia, and you found this. This is a 42-year-old document from the Defense Intelligence Agency. You know, we spend billions of dollars on taxes, and we got all these people in cubicles running all these experiments and all kinds of crazy stuff. And the bottom line is, they're looking at all kinds of different things, but you see all these chairs in this room. I bet most of you don't know the person across the aisle. You wouldn't know the person's name sitting next to you. Well, that's how the government works. That's how the research apparatuses work. And the bottom line is, the people at the top know exactly what they want, and the scientific community is basically like a short order cook. They pay you a good wage, and you cook these results the way I want them. That's a fact. And that's what we're getting out of the scientific system now. We're getting results that they've cooked to order. And the problem is the compartmentalized research apparatus that exists in the universities, in all these institutions. The cubicles don't look over the top and talk to each other. I'm going to give you an example. I have a family member that is pursuing a PhD in genetic engineering, plant genetic engineering, and I have about 100 fruit trees at my house. I don't have a big yard, but I got them every 6 feet. And I had a question for her because she spent the past 15 years of her life in the upper echelons of education, and I said, can you please tell me why my orange trees turn yellow? Because I can't for the life of me figure it out. Now, this is a loaded question. This woman can splice genes and come up with all kinds of answers to things way down that rabbit hole, but when it comes to walking in my backyard and finding out why my orange tree is yellow, she couldn't answer the question. Folks, that's what they've done to our children. That's what they've done to maybe even some of you, if you're in government, or if you're in science, or if you're in education. Very few people understand how all this stuff fits together. It's because they're all basically on their merry-go-round. Everybody wants their day off. Everybody wants to go on vacation. Everybody wants to have a nice meal and kick back and relax with your family. That's human. It's understandable. But the problem is the people that are in charge of things know that, and they use that because they feed on our weakness. And we're being had. You know, I was at a rally at City Hall the other day, and they were praising the climate change mantra, you know, the CO2 thing, and the plant food that they say is going to bring the end of the world. Well, the reality is that's going to get us out of our cars and bring the end of the world to civilization as we know it. Because they're going to use this phony paradigm into conning everybody to go along with draconian social re-engineering. That's Agenda 21. They want to get... The United States is already 95% empty. They want it at 99. Now, it's funny. I'm coming up here from Fullerton, and you see the hills in Brea Canyon. It's like, oh, you know, you never realize they're there, but you don't have to travel far to realize there's land from here to Kingdom Come. There's tons of water under the ground. But there's a plan to get rid of all of this, folks. And it's a satanic agenda. And I'm in a church. And to be honest with you, I don't know if we can get this thing up on the screen here. It doesn't seem to be performing. But at the top of this, all this stuff that's happening, there are no accidents. There isn't a thing that's happening in the legislature or in the educational system that is an accident. Everything is carefully controlled. Everything is carefully designed. and everything is going according to plan. It's unfortunate that we, in spite of our best efforts, in some cases are successful at slowing these things down. But the reality is things are marching ahead, and they're marching ahead at light speed. We are now crammed into, I believe this is Diamond Bar, and I'm seeing these new houses are building, and there's not one tree in the front yard, and there's no room for trees in the front yard. And there's no place to grow food, there's no place for your kids to play, but there's plenty of room for big screens and air conditioners and Wiis and Xboxes. And all those things are by design, folks. And by the looks of this audience, you've probably got children and grandchildren, and that's what I'm here for tonight. Because in this Defense Intelligence Agency report, and it's funny because I've spent, I don't know, the past 5 or 6 years staying up till 1 or 2 in the morning every single night, and you can attest to the fact I've probably aged 20 years in the last 5 years. I'm 52 years old, and I didn't look like this 5 years ago. But it's because what I've found out is we are living in a complete nightmare. And nobody realizes it, and then when you try to bring it to the attention of the people that can make a difference, they don't want to hear it. I've been to school board meetings till the cows come home for years, trying to tell these people to stop ruining these children with this curriculum, trying to tell these people to stop ruining these children with the microwave emissions, trying to stop ruining these children, telling them they came from rocks and putting social workers in there and medicating everybody. But that's what they want. They want everybody dumbed down, and they want them all thinking they're animals so they can treat them like they're animals. That's the plan. Will these school board members listen? No, because they're installed. They're put in there by very corrupt people, and each school board and each city council, you have people that have been put there. They've been installed. They've been placed there intentionally as a placeholder to keep the agendas rolling forward. Tonight I want to talk about microwave radiation. You want to know why? Because I'm sick of being exposed to it without my permission. And everywhere I go, I see more towers. And you couldn't figure out a better way to wage a war than one that's silent and one that's quiet. And that's what's being waged on us right now, is a silent war with a quiet, invisible weapon. And ladies and gentlemen, back when I was celebrating Philadelphia freedom in 1976, when I was just a little boy, and the only thing I cared about was how much water was in my canteen when I was hiking in O'Neill Park, these guys were figuring out what this stuff did to us, not just our eyeballs or our hair, but down to the cellular level. Now, I spent 5 years at UCI, and by the time I got out of there, I was doing assays and looking at viral particles and all kinds of nonsense. They were trying to train me into becoming an allopathic petrochemical poison pusher called a medical doctor. I couldn't handle it. I was done. And I'm glad I did not continue on that path, because allopathic medicine is a fraud. And I think everybody in this room, if you look hard enough into what the doctors have done, they're not helping anybody. They're making everybody worse. They're giving them bad advice, and they're giving them poisonous pills, and they're killing people, slowly but surely. And if you turn on the television, you're going to get a buzz just looking at all the pill commercials. It's unbelievable. And for those of you who like to maybe watch the nighttime Jeopardy and stuff, that's all it is drugs. And they play this really creepy elevator music, and they tell you how wonderful this stuff is. It's really evil. Well, if you go to Walgreens, you're going to see the Sorcerer's Cup. Now, that's what their logo is. What does the Bible say about pharmakia? It's a forbidden practice. What does it say about all these things? Well, look, we are called. I'm assuming everybody here is Christian, right? We all believe in Jesus Christ. I mean, is that a safe assumption? Amen. Amen, right? I mean, why we're not in the main sanctuary with a couple thousand people talking about this, that's a whole other discussion. But the bottom line is, we are being destroyed. Our minds are being destroyed. Our children's minds are being destroyed. The video game systems, the pornography, the Hollywood movies, the pedophilia that's out in the open. We know this stuff is going on, but yet we don't do anything about it because we feel powerless. Well, I'm here to tell you that we have a lot more power than we think. And just as a brief reminder to everybody in this room, you are the product of a human egg and one out of about 30 million sperm that made it into that egg. And you took 9 months to be created when God created the earth and the heavens in 7 days. He spent more time on making you and I than he did on the world we live in. That's important. In addition, there's 75,000 miles of circulatory system in our bodies. That's not there by accident. We are incredibly powerful creatures created in the image of God with incredible power. Lucifer is no match for what we know and for who we serve. But the biggest weapon that Satan uses on his people is fear. And if you look at the very end of the Bible, we know how the story ends. It's a rough road. We know how we get there. But in the 21st chapter of Revelation, there's a line for those people who are going to be thrown into the lake of fire. And you may not remember who the first in line is, but it's not the murderers or the rapists or the child molesters. It's the cowards. The cowards are the first in line for the lake of fire. Cowardice is the worst sin of all, because cowardice allows all the other sins to proceed with impunity. And that is the problem. They've made everybody afraid. Now you wonder why they teach these children evolution, when it makes absolutely no sense. It's counterintuitive to even a young child. Because they want everybody to be afraid to die, so they will do what they're told. That is the goal, ladies and gentlemen. Now, along the sides of the other reasons they teach is they don't want the morality that comes with the biblical truth. They don't want to be held accountable. They want to live in sin and do things their way. But the bottom line is that's what they want. They want all of you to be afraid. And let me ask you a question. If anybody in this room tonight were to be killed on the way home, would you be worried about what would happen to your family? Because you shouldn't. Because if you really believe in what you hold dearly on Sunday mornings, then you shouldn't be afraid of anything. And see, that's the problem, is we all worry about, my gosh, my retirement, the stock market, my child, where's he going to go to college, this, that, or the other. Folks, we got to stop worrying about things that don't matter. And we got to do what people did 260 years ago. This thing right here is a flag. And I like this one because it doesn't have a gold tassel around it. And I think you can understand what that's all about. It is red, white, and blue for a reason. I'm going to repeat this. People died barefoot under a blue sky on a white blanket of snow. Can you imagine being barefoot in the snow, bleeding to death? Yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened, and that's why I'm standing here telling you that the government is sterilizing school children. And there's a reason I'm still alive, and I've been talking about this for years, and no one sued me. Because it's true. And God has ordained that truth go forward from His people. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of this before. This right here is a school classroom. And I guarantee if you have children or grandchildren, your kids are in this environment, and it's not by choice, it's by force. They're forced to stare at TV sets all day. And guess what? Those TV sets are weapons. The iPad is a depopulation tool. Microwaves are a weapon. This wasn't put together by Mother Teresa's charity organization. This was put together by the Defense Intelligence Agency. Microwaves have been developed as a weapon. They have honed these things down to the exact frequency, the exact amount of modulation, the exact power level, and the exact distance to the source, and the exact design of a slot antenna to figure out how to ruin the eggs of young girls. They've got it down to a science, ladies and gentlemen. And Zonia's been a pro-life warrior for decades. And she's going to be out of a job pretty soon because no one's getting pregnant. We've got the absolutely most debauchery-ridden, debased, demoralized, sex-crazed generation in our history, and the birth rate is falling. And it's not because the girls are not forgetting to take their pills. It's because fertility is in rapid decline. We had the lowest birth rate. 600,000 births. The population's grown by leaps and bounds. I have a colleague of mine in the room just came from Los Alamitos. They want to open the borders over there, and they're fighting to keep the borders closed. The Los Alamitos City Council's taking a stand for immigration, against the illegal immigration. And yet the birth rate's dropping, even though we got tons of people pouring in here like nobody's business.